UFC Fight Night Adesanya versus Imavov is coming up in a couple weeks, and today, guys, we have the full card breakdown for you with timestamps if you'd like to skip to any part of the video. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I'm your guy with many YouTube channels. Guys, this is the video series on the channel where we dive as deep into these fights as we could possibly get, breaking them down, predicting them, taking a look at betting odds. I'm going to talk about the fights that I like to talk about. We break down all of these fights, and again, if you're interested in any particular fight, you can find them in the timestamps below. With that being said, guys, let's get started. Starting off with the first fight over here, we have Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi taking on Bolaji. This is actually a low-key pretty good fight for the division. Both guys have shown promise in their careers so far, but I do still think that there is work to be done. You have Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi. He is a very, very fast technical striker who excels when he's moving forward. He does a good job using feints and mixing in takedowns. He's also super tough. He has a ton of heart, but he can be chinned. That's really the only downside to Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi. He's taking on Bolaji, who is a Muay Thai and kickboxing world champion. He is a good striker with really big power for the division. He does a good job when he's controlling the pace. He has slow but very strong and powerful jabs, and on the feet he's pretty methodical in general. Takedown defense is okay. He can show some good sprawls, but the only thing that I don't like about Bolaji is sometimes he can clown around, which does he leave him open to shots. Other than that, he's pretty hittable, especially when you catch him throwing looping shots. Like, sometimes he shows up and he's like a really good striker, and sometimes he shows up and it's just like the slow, strong jabs. There is some work that still needs to be done in both guys' arsenal, in my opinion, but for this pick, I am going to go with Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi. I think he'll just be, like I said, he said he was a fast striker, but I think he's just going to be way faster, and I don't think he's going to really get caught with anything huge from Bolaji. Like, you know, when you have a power, when you have a bunch of power like Oki has, you could always catch somebody, but I do like the speed and technical striking we've seen from El-Sawadi, and this is probably going to stay on the feet, and I do like his chances in the striking department. So for this first fight, I am going to pick him to get the job done. Let's take a look at the betting odds over here. We have Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi sitting at about a minus 220 favorite right now. I don't mind it. Like, it's not something that I'm interested in playing in particular, but I think that it's a fair line right now. So that's my first pick, Abdul Kareem El-Sawadi. All right, guys, let's continue on over to the next fight. What's interesting about this fight is there's some prelim fights where I don't particularly have too much to say, but on the other side of the coin, there are some like really nice bangers on the main card. But anyways, we have Hamady Abdelwahab, who I completely forgot about. He's taking on Jamal Pogues because we haven't seen Hamady in a very long time. It's been almost 3 years. I have no clue why this guy's been off. Wasted his prime completely. I have no idea. But I do know that I know he's an Olympic wrestler. Like, that's pretty well his only, like, really big accomplishment, but is that what he was off doing? I actually don't know. I don't know when he won I don't know when he competed in the Olympics, but regardless, guys, Hamady Abdelwahab, is a slow, powerful striker. The strength is in the wrestling game. There isn't a ton to look at when taking a look at the hammer over here. But on the other side of the coin, we have Jamal Pogues, who's a striker with good volume, decent pressure. He's one of those guys that comes in and he's just a fighter that is better than your typical average sloppy heavyweight. You know what kind of fighter that I'm describing? Not quite like a Jairzinho Rosenstrike. He's better than that, but he's like that next step where it's not just, I'm going to come in here overweight and swing giant hooks. He actually does have some nice technical striking behind this. So here's the big question. Is this fight going to be a wrestling match or is it going to be a striking match? Can Jamal Pogues stop Hamady's takedowns? And I would imagine that's what Hamady's going to do. But Hamady has also been caught on the feet before. So I got to go with the guy who's been active. I got to go with the guy just entering his prime. I got to go with the guy just starting his run in the UFC heavyweight division. Like, he's had some okay performances. We haven't seen Hamady in, like I said, almost 3 years. Very little MMA experience. So I'm going to go with Jamal Pogues. It is a low confidence pick as a heavyweight division, but what can we say over here? And you can see that Jamal Pogues is sitting at a very slight favorite over here. Not feeling good about betting on that one at all, but regardless, it's I think I am gonna take Pogues on that one, but I'm like, I don't know how confident I am in that pick. All right, guys, let's continue on over to the next fight. We have Bogdan Grad taking on Lucas Alexander. This is another fight that I'm looking forward to, man. There's a lot of really good fights on this card. Just a little bit of a rocky start. I'm not excited for the fights, but it's just like, what can we really say about it? So we have Bogdan Grad, who is a well-rounded fighter. He has good heart. He has a ton of power. He has a killer instinct and has a lot of heart. This guy can absolutely fight. We've seen him for a little while now after his loss to Tom Nolan. He has been on a 3-fight win streak, coming back into the UFC. And even in this fight against Michael as well, like, it was just a fantastic war. I'm excited to see this guy back into the UFC, okay? Lucas Alexander, on the other hand, he is a powerful striker who can fight pretty well at any range. And by that, I mean, like, sometimes he'll come in, he'll try to fight in the pocket, does a really good job fighting inside that pocket, or he can really use his range and fight really, really lengthy, right? He has a decent grappling game to back things up, and if he does end up finding himself on the ground, he has pretty good scrambles. Like, this dude is a really good fighter. You might be looking at him saying, okay, he is 8-4. Take a look at these 2 losses in the UFC, okay? He lost to Joe Anderson Brito, and Joe Anderson Brito would beat the vast majority of the division when it comes to unranked fighters. And he also lost to Jekka Sari, who got a fluke knockout. Let's be real with that one. He was not, like, Lucas Alexander in this fight showed that he was the far superior fighter. So I think he's had a little bit of a rough go so far. And I am going to pick him to win this fight, man. I'm hyped behind this guy. I like what I've seen from him so far. Like, Bogdan Grad definitely could have a future ahead of him, but I just like what I've seen from the Lion so far, so I am going to be taking Lucas Alexander to get the win in this matchup. Now, I actually don't know if this is a short notice fight or not, because this is the only fight on the card that does not have any odds out right now. Not a clue why, just regardless, I'm taking Lucas Alexander to get the win over here, guys. I'm pretty confident in saying so. Now, guys, let's continue on. Up the card, we have Jasmine Jasudavicius taking on Mayra Bueno Silva. I did not know that Bueno Silva was moving down a division, so she is making, as far as I know, it's her flyweight debut, but we've seen her fight at 135 anyway. She's taking on Jasmine Jasudavicius. Jasmine Jasudavicius is a decently well-rounded fighter who excels when putting on striking pressure. She does a great job keeping things on the feet with really nice takedown defense, incredible scrambles, incredible reversals. She absolutely shines if she finds herself on top of her opponents. She has great ground and pound, slicing elbows, and while, and this is a big problem with Jasmine Jasudavicius, and we've talked about her many times on this channel, while the pressure and volume is great from her, she is very sloppy. Accurate strikers who can keep up with her cardio can absolutely dummy her, okay? So, she has a little bit of work to do, but in saying that, she is a very, very, very good fighter for the division. She's taken on Mayra Bueno Silva, who is a great BJJ fighter with good power for the division, and I would imagine that power is going to translate well over to flyweight. She's pretty strong in the clinch. She can be explosive in the first round. Unfortunately, though, she does have very lackluster cardio, and she has been slowing down since off the PEDs, okay? Guys, when looking at this fight, I look at it this way, okay? You have the flyweight division, which is a very lackluster division. You have one fighter who I've been very impressed with, that being Jasmine Jasudavicius, and one fighter that I'm not impressed with one little bit, and that being Mayra Bueno Silva. I don't care about the potential weight difference. I don't care about the potential power. I just look at Jasmine Jasudavicius like she is the far superior fighter. Mayra Bueno Silva hasn't gotten a win in almost 2 years, and she took on Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington, and Macy Chiasson. What, like, those aren't even, like, if she got wins, that's not even any win to go, okay, you know what, that's a really, really good win. Jasmine Jasudavicius, on the other hand, she's been taking on some decent competition for the division, man, and she's showing improvements, and this win over against Ariana Lipski, she has looked really, really good there, man. She's showing some improvements, so I like Jasmine Jasudavicius in this fight. I believe it's just a good fighter versus a bad fighter in this one, but hey, it's WMMA, anything can happen, so I am going to be picking Jasmine Jasudavicius. She's very fun too. Very, very fun. Needed for the division, so I hope she gets the job done too. And you can see Jasmine sitting at a minus 216 favorite. That one makes sense, man. Like, there's nothing else to say about that fight. Like, Jasmine has looked really, really good as of recently, as opposed to Mayra Bueno Silva. So it's a no-brainer in my opinion. All right, guys, let's keep moving. Let's keep going up this card. We have Firas Ziam taking on Mike Davis. Firas Ziam is a long striker who likes to keep things at bay technically. He's pretty slow pace. He picks his shots, and he only throws when he is confident that he will land those shots. He typically goes out there to point win, but that's not like the only thing that he does. That's just the game plan. We can see in his last fight against Matt Frevola, man, shocked me. I lost money on this fight. I was very confident Matt Frevola to get the job done. And you know what? I'm going to mention right now, because something that I am changing my mind on for Ziam is I believe I have been vastly underrating him as a fighter, and I might be doing so again, okay? He can also fight up close if he needs to. He just prefers to be outside at his range. He is comfortable no matter where the fight is on the feet. The only other note with Firas Ziam is he does have an issue defending takedowns, but that does seem to be improving. Mike Davis, on the other hand, he's a very fast, powerful striker with really sharp, nice kicks. He's incredibly athletic, he has good fight IQ, and he has a good ground game to back up that striking. So it's two fighters that are actually on a 4-fight win streak here. And in my opinion, man, this one's a really tough fight to call. This fight is going to remain on the feet. And the question is, can Varas slow the pace down, or is Mike Davis going to just tee off on him? I don't know what's going to happen in this fight, and that's why it's a very, very interesting fight. Both guys have looked really, really good. I will say, though, of course, just taking a look through this, Mike Davis has been very, very inactive as comparison to Faraz Ziam, who hasn't been the most active, but he has definitely been fighting the more recent competition. I don't know who's going to win this fight, man. I really, really have no clue. This is a really tough one. I'm going to give a very, very slight lean over to Faraz Ziam, but in saying that, I'm 55-45 on this fight, guys. I could see this one going either way. This is certainly, in my opinion, not a fight to bet on. I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to enjoy the striking display that both these guys put on, but for the channel, for the video, I am going to sit down and make a prediction, and I think that Faraz Ziam is going to get the win. He burned me last time. It's not going to happen again. You can see that Faraz Ziam is actually sitting at the underdog right now. Mike Davis, minus 261. Faraz Ziam, plus 205. I personally think this one should be a little bit closer to a pick'em. I think this fight is very, very difficult to call, and I'm just going to sit back. Like I said, man, I'm going to enjoy this bout. All right, guys, let's keep moving on up this card. We have Terrance McKinney taking on Damir Hadzovic, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know about you guys. I completely forgot who this guy was, but then I took a look at the recent record, and I was like, okay, yeah, I remember, but you're taking a look at fights that are 5 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way. I completely forgot that this dude existed, okay? Regardless, he's taking on Terrance McKinney. Damir Hadzovic is a decent striker who has pretty good pressure. All he wants to do is move forward with his striking in order to get a takedown. On the ground, he has some pretty good ground and pound. The problem being, we haven't seen this guy, and I don't know why, almost 3 years. He's been very inconsistent in the UFC, and you can just tell, it's against a lot of fighters that you don't see too much push on. He's having lackluster success, right? He's 38 years old, returning to the sport. He's taking on Terrance McKinney, who he's a very simple breakdown. Terrance McKinney, he's a lengthy striker. He has huge power and a really good wrestling game. I believe Terrance McKinney is a better fighter than he has shown to be in the octagon. He's ran into some really good opponents. He's had some bad luck with some early KOs, and that's another thing about Terrance McKinney is he can be chinned. So he ran into, excuse me guys, sorry about that. He ran into Ismail Bonfim, Nazim Zadikov, two really great fighters in my opinion, but then he started getting the ball rolling right against Mike Breeden and Brandon Moreau, and then of course he ran into Esteban Ribovics, which there is also no shame in losing, but he didn't really get the opportunity to perform because that fight was 30 seconds long. So, point being, I think that Terrance McKinney is better than what he has shown to be, but the problem is we have seen him able to get finished. We have seen him able to be chinned, okay? I believe that Terrance McKinney is finally getting a fight where it's kind of being set up for him to get the win. I believe his wrestling game will be enough to stop Damir's aggression wrestling game, and I do think that he'll be able to pick him apart on the feet. I am going to be picking Terrance McKinney, and I'm fairly confident in saying so with that fight, guys. I think this is finally a fight where we can see Terrance McKinney get the dub, and you can see that Terrance McKinney, Terrance McKinney's sitting at a very big favorite, so odds are agreeing with me. To be honest with you, I understand that. I'm not picking a guy that's coming back on 3 years out, made no name in the UFC for himself. I'm going with Terrance McKinney in this one, guys. I think we're finally going to see him get the ball rolling again. All right, guys, like I said, we're moving on to the real fun fights over here. We have probably what's going to be the biggest memed fight on the card. Shamil the Blob Gaziev taking on Thomas Peterson. Shamil Gaziev. We all know Shamil Gaziev at this point. He is a giant Dagestani striker with big power, strong takedowns, but the problem is what we recently figured out a couple fights ago against Jairzinho Rozenstruik. He has a huge heart and cardio issue. Lucas Tracy called him Shamil the Blob Gaziev, and it stuck, and now everybody is just hyping up about this guy. I love when MMA fighters get memed like this, guys. But to be fair, Shamil Gaziev did bounce back with a win against Dontel Mays, where he didn't look bad, but he didn't look good either in this fight. He was tired, as usual, but he did get past those 3 rounds. He was accurate. He utilized his wrestling to win. So I don't believe he's useless like a lot of people were talking about Shamil Gaziev being after he lost to Rozenstruik. Plus, Rozenstruik is a very, very underrated fighter too. Anyways, he's taking on Thomas Peterson, he was the LFA heavyweight champion. He is a strong wrestler with poor hands. On the ground, though, On the ground, he has proven to be trouble for his opponents. He's heavy, has a ton of strength, has good ground and pound, has really good control. And guys, I can feel my voice going a little bit. I'm still recovering from being sick. Sorry about that. I'm deep breathing a little bit. He does end up leading with his head a lot when they're in the striking, so clashes of heads can happen. And to be honest with you, when looking at the striking, those clash of heads, when he leans forward with his head just moving through, he can probably steal some rounds because he could cut his opponents because he's headbutting. Like that, I know like that's such a weird thing to say, but it's something we need to take into consideration. Those types of things can steal rounds. Here's the thing, okay? Here's the thing, guys. Both these guys are huge. I don't know, man. This is another really tough fight to pick because you have two really, really big guys who probably want to take each other down. I mean, Shamil is comfortable on the feet, but how can I pick Shamil after seeing him have heart and cardio issues? Okay, I just convinced myself. I'm not going to be picking the guy who has a cardio issue, who has a heart issue. I'm not picking a guy who's been nicknamed the Blob. I'm picking Thomas Peterson. It's a very low confidence pick because I also think that Thomas Peterson is overrated, okay? I can very well see Shamil Gaziev getting the job done over here, but I am going to be picking Thomas Peterson to get the job done. I would really like to see Shamil Gaziev get the win because I want to keep the meme rolling, but my pick is going to be Thomas Peterson. It's a very, very low confidence pick, and we can see, wow, Shamil Gaziev's a huge favorite. Guys, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. Nobody with a heart and cardio issue should be this big of a favorite at all. Underdog opportunity, absolutely, with Thomas Peterson. I'm not confident he's going to get the job done, but at those odds, sometimes it's worth throwing some money at that, okay? I'm picking Thomas Peterson to get the job done, man. All right, guys, let's continue on going up through the next fight. We have Muhammad Naimov versus Con Ofli. I really enjoy, if you guys have been watching the channel, I know there's been some problems with the fan base, but I have been really enjoying Muhammad Naimov's run in the UFC. It's been very, very exciting so far. So, Muhammad Naimov, he is a very well-rounded fighter. From kickboxing to wrestling to brawling to countering, the guy honestly can do anything. It's a very simple breakdown when it comes to Muhammad Naimov. He has rolled into the UFC looking great, taking on some really, really nice opponents and looking great. He ran into Felipe Lima. It was a good performance. It was a very, very hard fight, but he did end up getting finished in that bout. That was a little bit shocking to me, but Felipe Lima has also been proven to be a really good fighter. He's taken on Con Ofli, who is a grappler with good control and dangerous submissions. He does have some striking too, but his strength is the grappling. He wants to get you down there. He wants to submit you. He is coming off of just entering the UFC and getting his first loss against Marion Santos, which it was also, like I said, with the loss to Muhammad Naimov, man, it was a good performance. It was pretty back and forth. He just ended up getting caught and knocked out. I'm having trouble gauging where Con Ofli belongs into the UFC, but I do believe that Muhammad Naimov will be ranked at some point. I'm very high on this guy. I love watching him fight. I think he is very technical everywhere. Even if you want to include like anything upon fence grabbing, you know, he's not opposed to doing any of that. Just this guy will do anything to get the win, and I think he's a very good fighter. I am confident in saying that Muhammad Naimov is going to get the job done. I think this is a step down an opponent compared to Felipe Lima, and we know that Muhammad Naimov is a little bit better than that step. So I am picking Muhammad Naimov to get the win over here, and you can see that Muhammad Naimov is sitting right now at a minus 250 favorite. Wow, I'm choosing a lot of favorites tonight, guys. I'm choosing a lot of favorites. How many I think I've only picked one underdog so far. You know, typically when we agree with these things, like it's when the underdogs start going crazy, right? And start getting the huge wins over here. But I am definitely picking Muhammad Naimov. That is a fight that I am considering betting on myself. But speaking of betting, guys, as always, on this channel, we talk a lot about betting over here. So if you're interested in either supporting the channel or seeing exactly where I'm putting my money, where my mouth is when it comes to UFC betting, check out the channel membership in the pinned comment description down below or right next to the subscribe button. Every single Thursday or Friday, right before each MMA card, I will be posting a communities members post and a members only video showing exactly what I am doing with my own money, what fighters I am betting on. So if you're interested in either supporting the channel or seeing what bets that I am placing, never blindly tail, combine my fight knowledge with your own research, then you can check out the channel membership. Like I said, guys, very, very cheap compared to other channels. Thank you for listening. Also, OddsJam is a tool that we've been using on the channel. If you would like to sign up to OddsJam, get a discount, you can use my code Clenbat in the description. Pin comment down below. that link. OddsJam is perfect if you are a serious sports bettor and have multiple sports books. Very, very early to the odds, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Let's get into this main card. Starting off the main card, we have Ikram Aliskerov taking on Andre Muniz. I am very excited for this fight. I feel like I'm the last Andre Muniz fan on the planet. He's just been disappointing the fan base as of recently, right? But anyways, you know what? We'll start with Andre Muniz. He is a BJJ fighter who has technical striking, and he shows it here and there. He has good takedowns. If he gets you there, though, if he gets you to the ground, that's where he really becomes an issue. He has really great control. He has decent ground and pound, and he's a very, very dangerous submission artist. Andre Muniz has not necessarily lived up to his hype, and he is exiting his prime at this point in his career. He's coming off of 2 losses to both Brendan Allen and Paul Craig, both which have not aged all that well. I used to look at Brendan Allen like he was going to be in the title picture until I found out he's a 3-round fighter. Brendan Allen, though, at the time, I was like, okay, you know what? It's a respectable loss. He lost Paul Craig. He made Paul Craig look really, really good, okay? That's an issue. But then he ended up getting a split decision over Jun-Yun Park. And it's very important to note in this fight because he said before this fight that he was going to look back to just game planning BJJ, nothing else. And he just did that. He ended up using his control and getting the win. So Andre Muniz is going to be coming into this fight like he hasn't always been. He's going to be coming into this fight with a game plan to use his jiu-jitsu to get the win. He's taking on Ikram Aliskerov, who is a combat sambo world champion. And I always mention this with Ikram Aliskerov. Khabib Nurmagomedov himself said that Ikram Aliskerov is the future. He is a well-rounded fighter with great combat sambo. He does a good job keeping the fight exactly where he wants to be. But in my opinion, I have said this about Ikram Aliskerov before, and I'm very proud of this, by the way, because he is very unproven against top talent. He took the fight against Robert Whittaker, and there was a lot of asterisks to this fight. Nothing to take away from that. Robert Whittaker came in and just steamrolled him. And I don't take anything away from Ikram Aliskerov in this bout. I would need to see like a full setup training camp fight against Robert Whittaker, okay, to kind of properly gauge where he fits in the division. Other than that, though, we've seen him fight in the UFC a few times. He's looked really good in the UFC, man. He's looked really good. But I still do think that he's unproven against top competition. Unfortunately, though, I do not think that Andre Muniz is top competition. I like Andre Muniz. I think he's a great fighter. But I do believe Ikram Aliskerov is just that next step up. I believe that Ikram Aliskerov has the ground game necessary to negate anything that Andre Muniz wants to do. But in saying that, Andre Muniz is not one of those guys that you want to count out, okay? But I am very confident in saying that Ikram Aliskerov gets a job done. One of my most confident picks on the card, Ikram Aliskerov, I believe, will outshine Andre Muniz no matter where the fight goes. And you can see, all right, another favorite we picked here today, guys. Ikram Aliskerov sitting at a minus 593 favorite. Crazy, man. Crazy. Where are we going to find our spots for betting this time around? There are some tough fights coming up too. I'm excited for the whole card, dude. All right, guys, let's move on. And this is my most anticipated fight on the entire card. We have Said Nurmagomedov taking on Vinicius Oliveira. I cannot believe that the UFC actually put this fight together because this is a beyond phenomenal matchup for contenders in this division. You have Said Nurmagomedov. He is a very creative and fun striker with great kicks, works really well at range. He has skills on the ground, and weird enough to say with a Nurmagomedov, he can be taken down. He is one of the Nurmagomedovs that prefers to stand on the feet, which is very, very interesting. Said Nurmagomedov has had a pretty, we don't see him too often, but he's had a pretty good performances in the UFC so far, only losing to Jonathan Martinez. But in my opinion, I don't think that losing to Jonathan Martinez is anything to really go crazy about. I know he's been a little bit lackluster lately, but he had a really good performance there. Vinicius Oliveira, though, on the other hand, the way I describe Vinicius Oliveira is always, he is a mean fighter. He is a mean fighter who wants to come forward and he just wants to finish you. He has technique, but he doesn't always use it. Sometimes the dude gets too confident, swings wild, and keeps his hands down, but he's so powerful. He throws everything into every shot. He can be accurate. He can be flashy. The dude does everything. I will say, like Said Nurmagomedov, the takedown defense is there, but it's not perfect. But he is able to get up from the ground if he is taken to the ground. In saying that, though, he does have a complete skill set in all aspects of MMA. And other than that, we finally ended up seeing him fade a little bit in fights, but he does throw absolutely everything there is to throw into his shots. So it's almost to be expected. He is also on a crazy run in the UFC. It's been a short run so far, but he's been on a crazy run. Looking really nice against Bernardo Sopaj and Ricky Simon. And Ricky Simon, man, I think that's also a really, really great fighter to get the victory over. This, in my opinion, is a very close fight. I don't know who's going to get the win here, man. This is a very, 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 very tough fight. I'm going to give a 60-40 lean over to Said Nurmagomedov. I don't want to say it's because of the Nurmagomedov name, but it kind of is, man. Like, I know that if things get really, really deep, I think that he'll still be able to hang there. And Vinicius Oliveira, I just think that he'll be able to take everything that Vinicius Oliveira dishes out. I just don't really see Said Nurmagomedov getting bullied by Vinicius Oliveira. If Vinicius Oliveira can bully his opponents, then he is really, really strong. He's strong in general, but I have a hard time seeing that one. So I'm going to go with Said Nurmagomedov in a low confidence pick. Let's take a look at what odds Jim has to say and what the odds are at right now. And you can see that Said Nurmagomedov is sitting at about 2-1 favorite. I don't know what to think about this fight. I'm staying away from this fight, but besides like maybe at what a 1.5 round is looking at. I think both guys are tough enough where they could survive, and I think this fight's going to primarily remain on the feet. I'm just excited for this one. It's going to be a fantastic fight. Also, guys, if you've been enjoying the video so far, please hit like and subscribe if you have not already. Comment down below, help the algorithm. Drop some comments about what fights that you like. If you think I'm wrong on any fights, if you agree with any picks, I'd love to hear from you. Also, if you're interested, we make more than just MMA content where you can find the link tree and the actual links in the description down below. We make gaming content, we make movies and TV content, we make variety content. You can find all of that if you're interested. Thank you again for listening. Let's move on to these last few fights, the first being the featured fight, and it is a very, very exciting one. We have Sergey Pavlovich taking on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. All of the aura from Sergey Pavlovich has been lost, but I will say I'm not ready to call it quits on this guy yet because, he lost to two of the best fighters in the division, that being Tom Aspinall and Alexander Volkov. There is no shame in losing to either of those fighters. Other than that, there is nothing to break down about Sergey Pavlovich. He is a very powerful boxer with fast hands for the division. He's a very one-dimensional fighter, but so is Jairzinho Rozenstruik, man. He is a good striker for the division. He's low volume. He hits really hard. He does a great job at I don't know how he does it, though. He does a great job at somehow slowing the pace down, and if he can do, he'll have a great fight. He'll pick his shots well. He'll roll with the punches. Jairzinho Rozenstruik, and what's weird about it, guys, is I actually think that he's been improving. I just got a hunch that he's been improving. He's been looking better and better, but the problem is, I know he just got the wins over Shamil Gaziev and Tai Tuivasa. That's nothing to go crazy about, but I just really like the way he slowed things down, and he just worked with what he likes to do. Just a slow Jairzinho Rozenstruik pace boxing match. I got a funny feeling that he's going to do the same thing to Sergey Pavlovich. And again, I'm not one of those guys that's written off Sergey Pavlovich. He is still a very, very capable and great fighter for the heavyweight division. He is huge, powerful, fast. Like, the dude is still really, really good. I just think that Jairzinho's also going to slow it down like he has been. It's more of a gut feeling in this one, but I'm going to be picking Jairzinho Rozenstruik to get the win here. I think he's going to keep the ball rolling. So I'm decently confident in saying so, too. I got a hunch for that one, man. And Jairzinho Rozenstruik sitting at a small underdog over here with the heavyweight division. You can never really be too sure, but I like that underdog pick, man. That's the one that I will also be considering playing. Now, guys, let's continue on over to the co-main event. We have Shara Bullet Magomedov taking on Michael Venom Page. This is a very interesting fight. You have Michael Page moving up to the middleweight division from welterweight after losing to Ian Gary, but I will say, from what we've seen from Ian Gary, man, he has proven himself to be one of the best fighters in the world. No shame at all in losing to Ian Gary, especially when it was a pretty close fight. Michael Venom Page has proven himself to be a very capable fighter and himself. That's something we already know, but he is an incredible striker with amazing movement, accuracy, timing, and power. He is extremely elusive. It can hit you from anywhere. He has good takedown defense and pretty good ground defense. But unfortunately, well, not necessarily unfortunately, he won't really need that in this fight. He's taken on Shara Bullet Magomedov, who is a really great Muay Thai striker. He's very violent, very speedy. He uses his front leg really well. He does also, though, I don't want to say also because Michael Page doesn't have that issue, but the option is there for his opponents. He does have issues with takedown defense, but it is improving, and he can offer resistance against BJJ. He attacks from the back with violent intent. He'll throw anything from elbows to kicks, all from the bottom, just to do some sort of damage to you, okay? Shara Magomedov, 15-0. He hasn't taken on nearly the level of opponent that Michael Venom Page has taken on ever since he joined the UFC. He beat Bruno Silva, Antiano Tricoli, Michael Olegstruck, and Armin Petrosian. A couple of those names are okay, but still, Everybody's going crazy about the double spinning back fist. I didn't know it was actually mentioned on Tapology as a double spinning back fist knockout. I didn't know that was something that would be mentioned. I would have just thought it would be back fist. But regardless, Michael Page has taken on the far superior fighters and proven himself to be better in like against way better competition as compared to what Shara Bullet has taken on. I think that Shara Bullet is a good fighter when outside of the rankings. We know that Michael Page can deal with pretty well anybody, and I think that he's going to move up to the middleweight division pretty well, in my opinion. He's getting up there, but his age isn't showing at all. I like Michael Venom Page in this fight, guys. I look at the two, and I believe that Michael Page is just a better striker. I've just been more impressed with him. I would imagine everybody else feels the same way. You look at these two fighters. Yeah, Shara Bullet, he's a good striker, but when you look at Michael Page, it's like he is a great striker. It's a great striker versus a good striker, and I would imagine that this fight's going to remain on the feet. With that, I think Michael Venom Page is going to be elusive enough, and it's going to be one of those classic performances where Michael Venom Page kind of enters the matrix and ends up piecing up Shara Bullet, Magomedov. But you also have to take into consideration, and this is something that I should have mentioned throughout the entirety of the card, they're fighting in Saudi Arabia. If this goes to any sort of a decision, the decision win could go to Shara Bullet Magomedov. We know this is the case when they're fighting over in Saudi Arabia. They end up having the judges pick their fighters, but I do think Michael Page is the better fighter and will have a better performance regardless of the decision. You can see Shara Magomedov sitting at a slight favorite over here. I don't get that personally. I think that Michael Venom Page should be the favorite, so this is a target that I might be playing myself. And again, check out the membership if you're interested to see what exactly I do end up doing. Now, guys, let's move on over to the main event. We have Israel Adesanya, who it's so weird to see losing 3 of his last 5. He is taking on Nasruddin Imavov. This is a weird fight because Israel Adesanya is not in a main event, he's not in a pay-per-view main event. He's not on a pay-per-view card in general, and we're looking at a bunch of red in his record over here. It's crazy to see. Other than that, we all know Israel Adesanya is a very technical, lengthy kickboxer who is pretty elusive, picks his shots very well, but now he is Contender Izzy. Contender Izzy has a different drive to him. I am a full believer in Contender Izzy as being a very, very different fighter. He's a hungrier fighter, but I do question that hunger, to be honest with you, because we know that he's seemingly playing with the idea of retirement. I just don't see the same hunger from Israel Adesanya when he speaks. But we do know that Contender Izzy is a different animal, right? But anyways, Nasruddin Imavov, he is also a precise striker. He has nice movement. He has a strong clinch and a pretty good ground game to back all of that up. Nasruddin Imavov has been making his way up the division for quite a while now, getting some nice wins in the last year, but I will say they're not to the level of opponents that Israel Adesanya has facing. In the opponents that Israel Adesanya has facing, there's no shame in losing. Alex Pereira, Sean Strickland, Dricus du Plessis. Those are fantastic fighters to have losses against. Israel Adesanya is exiting his prime, okay? I believe in his last fight against Dricus du Plessis, you know what? It could just be the plot armor, and it could just be Dricus du Plessis looking goofy, but I thought that I saw signs of Israel Adesanya finally aging. He does have a lot of miles on the body. He's been training at a high level for a very long time, being in many events. Plus, he's made his money. I do question the motivation of Israel Adesanya. He has made his money, and like I said, man, I just have my questions, okay? I just have my questions, but here's the problem. Nasruddin Imavov, I was pretty high on him up until the Brendan Allen fight, okay? It was a really good fight. The fight could have gone either way, but my biggest takeaway from the Brendan Allen fight is he is not ready for the champions of the division. The Sean Stricklands, then I know, okay? I know, like, we can talk about Sean Strickland specifically, but the Dricus du Plessis, the Israel Adesanya, I just think that there is a level difference in Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov, okay? Nasruddin's a great fighter. He is a top 10 fighter. I cannot see him getting past Israel Adesanya unless Israel really is like way past his prime at this point. I'm pretty confident that Israel Adesanya will get the job done. He has a good reach advantage. I don't think that, like, I can't see Nasruddin Imavov really dragging Israel Adesanya to the ground the way Dricus du Plessis did. I'm picking Israel Adesanya. I think there's just a level difference here, and I think it's going to be one of those classic Izzy decisions. Israel Adesanya is also going to perform probably better at a 5-round fight. More experience there. Main event. I like Israel Adesanya in this matchup a lot, man. But I will say I'll be cheering for Nasruddin Imavov. I hope he gets a job done. But I'm pretty confident saying that Izzy does end up getting the job done over in this fight. Let's take a look at the odds over here. Israel Adesanya sitting at a slight favorite. makes sense to me. Like, there's ways and paths to victory for Nasruddin Imavov. I just do think that Israel Adesanya is going to get the job done. It's going to be a great card. I am very excited for the fight, but unfortunately, it's a couple weeks away, guys. So in the meantime, why don't you check out this video on screen right now talking about the good and bad of every MMA promotion. I would love to have you over there. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.